I should have trusted my gut when Brinley burst into my house that Sunday morning, waving her laptop and practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. But sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who know exactly how to wear you down. My name is Paige, and 6 months ago, my sister and mother convinced my husband to invest our life savings in what would become the biggest mistake of our lives. "This is it, Paige!" Brinley had exclaimed, setting up her presentation on our dining room table. "The business opportunity of a lifetime. Dean, you've got to see this too." I watched my husband emerge from the kitchen, coffee in hand, that familiar gleam of curiosity in his eyes. That's when Mom walked in. She didn't even knock anymore, carrying a stack of papers and wearing that determined expression I'd grown to dread. "I've already reviewed the business plan," Mom announced, settling into a chair. "It's brilliant, simply brilliant." I crossed my arms. "Since when are you a business expert, Mom?" "Don't be difficult, Paige," she replied, shooting me that look that still made me feel like a teenager. "Your sister has worked incredibly hard on this." Brinley clicked through her slides, her voice getting higher with each passing minute. "It's a revolutionary approach to sustainable fashion. We're talking about completely disrupting the industry. The projections show we could triple our investment within the first year." I glanced at Dean, who was leaning forward, completely absorbed. My stomach twisted. "Those numbers seem a little optimistic, don't they?" "God, you're always such a pessimist," Brinley sighed. "This is why you're still stuck in that boring accounting job while I'm out here creating something amazing." "My boring accounting job pays our bills," I shot back. "And from what I can see, these projections aren't based on any real market research." Mom reached across the table and patted my hand. "Honey, sometimes you have to take risks in life. Look how passionate your sister is about this." "Passion doesn't guarantee success," I argued, pulling my hand away. "Dean, please tell me you're not buying this." But Dean was already pulling out his phone, checking our accounts. "The timing could actually work. That inheritance from my dad is just sitting there. That money is for our future." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "For the house we've been saving for, remember?" "This could get us that house faster," Brinley interjected. "Plus so much more. Dean gets it, don't you?" I watched in horror as my husband nodded slowly. "Maybe we should hear her out, Paige. It does sound promising." The next few weeks were a blur of arguments, presentations, and guilt trips. Every time I raised an objection, I was painted as the negative one, the dream killer, the unsupportive sister. Mom would call daily, telling me how selfish I was being, how I was holding Dean back from an amazing opportunity. "Your sister has put everything into this," she'd say. "She needs family support. Remember how you felt when no one believed in you?" The final blow came during a family dinner. Brinley had brought her business partner Ulysses, a smooth-talking consultant who seemed to have an answer for every question I raised. "The contracts are ready to sign," Brinley announced over dessert. "We just need the capital to secure the manufacturing deals." Dean squeezed my hand under the table. "I think we should do it, honey. We can't pass this up." I looked around the table, at my mother's expectant face, my sister's barely contained excitement, and my husband's hopeful eyes. The weight of their combined pressure felt suffocating. "Fine," I whispered, feeling something break inside me. "But when this fails, remember that I warned you." "It won't fail," Brinley declared, raising her wine glass. "To family and future success." Everyone clinked glasses. I remained silent, watching them celebrate what I knew in my heart was a massive mistake. 3 months later, I stood in our empty living room, staring at my phone's banking app. The account that had once held our life savings now showed a balance of $243.17. Dean sat on our only remaining chair, head in his hands, while I listened to Brinley's voicemail for the 10th time. "I'm so sorry," her message said. "The market shifted, unexpected complications. I never meant for this to happen." Mom had stopped taking my calls 2 weeks ago, right around the time Brinley's company filed for bankruptcy. The manufacturing deals had been a sham. the market research non-existent, and our money, along with several other investors, had vanished into a black hole of bad decisions, and what I was beginning to suspect was outright fraud. I looked at Dean, broken and defeated, and felt something hard and cold settle in my chest. They had all pushed us into this, my mother, my sister, even my own husband. They had dismissed my concerns, belittled my caution, and now they had the audacity to disappear when everything fell apart. That's when I made a decision. They thought I was just the negative one, the pessimist, the boring accountant. They were about to learn exactly what this boring accountant could do. The morning after our world collapsed, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. After weeks of silence, she finally had something to say. "Let's meet for coffee. We need to discuss moving forward." I stared at the message while Dean got ready for work. He'd taken a second job at a warehouse to help us stay afloat. The apartment felt hollow, most of our furniture sold to cover next month's rent. "I'm meeting Mom," I told him as he grabbed his keys. He paused at the door. "Maybe she has a solution." "Like what? Another one of Brinley's brilliant ideas?" The bitterness in my voice made him flinch. "Paige, please. They're still family." "Family doesn't do this to each other," I muttered, but he was already gone. The coffee shop was crowded when I arrived. Mom sat in a corner booth, perfectly put together as always, sipping her usual vanilla latte. She smiled and waved as if we were meeting for a casual catch-up, not in the aftermath of financial devastation. "Honey, you look terrible," she said as I slid into the booth. "Have you been sleeping?" "Not since I had to sell my bed," I replied flatly. She winced. "About that, I've been talking to Brinley. She feels awful about everything." "Where is she?" I demanded. "She won't answer my calls, won't respond to emails. She took our money and disappeared." "She's staying with me," Mom admitted, stirring her coffee. "She's really struggling with this, Paige. The failure has hit her hard." I laughed, a harsh sound that made nearby customers turn their heads. "She's struggling? We lost everything. Everything, Mom. And you're worried about her feelings?" "These things happen in business," Mom said, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away. "Nobody could have predicted—" "I predicted it," I cut in. "I told you all exactly what would happen. But you wouldn't listen because Brinley's dreams were more important than my reality." A familiar voice called out from behind me. "Paige! Oh my God, I thought it was you!" Ava, my best friend from college, appeared at our table. Her smile faded as she read the tension between Mom and me. "I'm sorry, am I interrupting?" "No," I said, standing up. "We're done here." "Paige, please," Mom protested. "We need to figure out how to help Brinley through this." "Help Brinley?" I spun around, my voice rising. "What about helping Dean and me? We're living on ramen while she's hiding out in your guest room." Ava stepped closer, her hand on my arm. "Why don't we go get some air?" Outside, I finally broke down. Ava listened as I spilled everything. The pressure, the betrayal, the crushing weight of watching our savings evaporate while my family circled the wagons around Brinley. "Have you looked into what actually happened to the money?" Ava asked. She worked in corporate law, and I could see her professional interest picking. "They won't tell me anything. Brinley claims it's all gone, but something feels off. The whole thing collapsed too quickly." "Want me to do some digging?" she offered. "I have contacts who specialize in financial fraud investigations." I hesitated. "You think it was fraud?" "I think your sister's either criminally stupid or just criminal," Ava said bluntly. "Either way, you deserve answers." My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. "Brinley wants to meet. She has a new opportunity she thinks could help you recover your investment." "Unbelievable, I muttered, showing Ava the message. "They really don't get it, do they?" she said, shaking her head. "No, they don't." I straightened up, wiping my eyes. "But maybe it's time they did. Ava, if I wanted to find out exactly what happened to our money, where would I start?" She pulled out her business card and wrote a name on the back. "Start with him. He's a forensic accountant I work with. Tell him I sent you." That evening, Dean found me at our kitchen table, surrounded by papers I'd printed at the library, bank statements, incorporation documents, anything public I could find about Brinley's failed company. "What's all this?" he asked. "Research," I replied, not looking up. "I'm going to find out exactly what our dear sister did with our money." "Paige," he sighed, "maybe we should just move on, start fresh." I finally met his eyes. "You want to just let them get away with this? Let them write it off as a simple business failure while we lose everything? They're your family." "No," I said, turning back to my papers. "Family doesn't steal from you and then hide behind their mother. Family doesn't watch you lose everything and then have the nerve to pitch you another opportunity." I picked up my phone, pulling up the forensic accountant's contact information. They wanted a business person in the family? Well, they're about to get one. The forensic accountant's office smelled like coffee and printer ink. Marcus, the expert Ava had recommended, peered at his computer screen while I sat across from him, watching his expression darken. "Your sister really didn't try to hide her tracks," he muttered, clicking through documents. "It's almost amateur hour." "What do you mean?" He turned the screen toward me. "See these transfers? Large sums moving between accounts, but there's no corresponding product purchases or vendor payments. The money just moves. To where? That's where it gets interesting." He pulled up another window. "A lot of it ended up in personal accounts. Some went to online gambling sites. But the biggest red flag?" He pointed to a series of transactions. "These supposed manufacturing contracts? They're with shell companies, empty storefronts." My hands clenched in my lap. "Are you saying she never intended to manufacture anything?" "I'm saying your sister ran what looks like a classic Ponzi scheme, just not very well." I left Marcus's office with a USB drive full of evidence and a storm brewing in my chest. On my way home, my phone rang. Ulysses, Brinley's former business partner. "Paige, can we meet? There's something you should know." An hour later, I sat across from him at a quiet bar. He looked nervous, fingers drumming on his beer bottle. "I quit last week," he said, "right before everything fell apart. I saw what was coming." "And you didn't warn anyone?" He winced. "I tried telling Brinley she was in over her head, but she kept saying your mom would cover any shortfalls. That family money would keep us afloat." "What family money?" I leaned forward. "Mom's not rich." "That's what I thought. But Brinley had these emails." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages. "Here. She was telling investors that your mother was backing the company with her retirement fund." I read the emails, my blood running cold. Mom's name was all over them, listed as a silent partner and financial guarantor. Her signature appeared on documents she couldn't possibly have seen. "Did my mother know about this?" Ulysses shook his head. "I don't think so. Brinley forged a lot of signatures, said it was easier than dealing with paperwork." Back home, I found Dean asleep on our second-hand couch. My laptop glowed in the darkness as I logged into my old work email. I still had access from my accounting days. With trembling fingers, I started searching through archived communications with Brinley's company. At 2 a.m., I found it. Buried in a folder marked vendor contracts was an email chain between Brinley and someone named Jake. They were discussing how to restructure investor payments to cover personal expenses. My own sister had planned to steal from us from the very beginning. I printed everything, hands shaking as I organized the papers into a folder. A text from Mom lit up my phone. "Brinley's ready to explain everything. Family dinner tomorrow night. Please come." I started typing a response, then stopped. Maybe it was time to hear what excuses they'd invented. The next evening, I walked into Mom's house armed with my folder of evidence. The familiar smell of her lasagna filled the air, but my stomach was too knotted to feel hungry. "Paige!" Brinley rushed forward for a hug. I stepped back. "Don't." Mom emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Girls, let's all sit down and talk this through like family." "Family?" I pulled out the emails. "Like how you forged Mom's signature to secure investments, Brinley? Is that what family does? The color drained from her face. Where did you get those? Or how about these bank statements showing where our money really went? The casino withdrawals? The transfers to your personal account? Mom snatched the papers from my hand. What is this? Ask your daughter, I said. Ask her about the shell companies and the forged documents. Ask her why she told investors you were backing her scheme with your retirement fund. I never... Mom's voice trailed off as she read. Brinley, my sister's face crumpled. I was going to pay it all back. I just needed some startup capital. Startup capital? I laughed. You mean gambling money? Shopping sprees? You don't understand the pressure I was under, Brinley shouted. Everyone expected me to be successful, to make something of myself. So you stole from your own family? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I stood up, dropping the USB drive on the table. Everything's there, every transaction, every forged document, every lie. I'm taking this to the police tomorrow. You can't, Brinley grabbed my arm. Please, Paige, I'm your sister. I pulled away, meeting her desperate eyes. You stopped being my sister the moment you decided to destroy my life for your own gain. As I walked out, I heard Mom starting to cry. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than despair. I felt powerful. The police station's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Detective Rivera reviewed my evidence. She paused on certain documents, making notes while I sat across from her desk, fighting the urge to fidget. This is thorough, she said finally. Very thorough. But prosecuting family fraud cases can be complicated. She stole from multiple investors, not just us, I pointed out, and I have proof of forgery. True. She tapped her pen against the desk. We'll need more witness statements, starting with this business partner, Ulysses. My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, a text from Ulysses. Need to talk. Important. Meet at Carlo's Cafe? An hour later, I found him hunched over a coffee cup, looking even more nervous than before. Brinley called me, he said as I sat down. She knows you're gathering evidence. And? She wants me to sign a statement saying I was the one who handled all the financial decisions. His hands shook as he reached for his coffee. She's threatening to implicate me if I don't. I leaned forward. But you have proof that's not true, right? Some, emails mostly. But Paige, he glanced around the cafe. There's something bigger, something I didn't tell you before. He pulled out his laptop, opening a folder labeled Shadow Accounts. Look at these transactions. They don't just lead to gambling sites and shopping sprees. Some of this money, it went to another company, one I'd never heard of until I started digging. The company name caught my eye, Stellar Ventures, LLC. Wait, I said. I know that name. Mom mentioned it months ago. Said it was an investment group she was considering for her retirement fund. Ulysses nodded. It's registered to someone named Robert Walsh. But look at the address. I stared at the screen. The business address was my mother's house. Mom's involved? My voice cracked. She knew? I don't know for sure, Ulysses said. But these transfers, they're too regular to be coincidence. Someone was siphoning investor money into this company systematically. My phone buzzed again. Dean calling. I ignored it. I need copies of everything, I told Ulysses. And I need you to tell the police what you know. He hesitated. Brinley will come after me. She's going down either way. Question is, do you want to go down with her? Back home, Dean was waiting. His expression told me he knew. Your mother called, he said, crying about how you're trying to destroy the family. The family? I threw my bag down. They destroyed us first. Paige, maybe we should... Don't. I held up my hand. Don't defend them. Not after what I just learned. I showed him the documents from Ulysses. As he read, his face hardened. Your mom's house? But that would mean... She was in on it. Maybe from the beginning. I sank onto our couch. All those times she pushed us to invest when she vouched for Brinley's business plan. My phone buzzed yet again. This time a text from an unknown number. Back off, or everyone learns about the tax fraud at your old accounting firm. I showed Dean. They're trying to blackmail me now. What tax fraud? There wasn't any. I would have known. I stood up, anger replacing my shock. They're getting desperate. Dean grabbed my arm. Paige, be careful. If they're willing to threaten you. I'm done being careful. I pulled away, grabbing my laptop. They want to play dirty? Fine, let's play. I emailed Detective Rivera. Found new evidence. Possible conspiracy involving multiple parties. Can we meet tomorrow? Her response came quickly. Bring everything you have, and Paige, watch your back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at our kitchen table, surrounded by papers, connecting dots I should have seen months ago. Mom's sudden interest in Brinley's business, the way she'd pressured us to invest, her convenient disappearance when everything fell apart. A knock at the door made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Ava. You need to see this, she said when I let her in. She was carrying a thick file. I did some digging at work. Stellar Ventures? It's not their first scam. They've done this before, under different names. She spread out documents showing a pattern of failed businesses, lost investments, and shell companies. Your sister may have been the face of this scheme, Ava said, but she was just the latest puppet. This goes deeper than family drama, Paige. This is organized fraud. I stared at the evidence of a conspiracy that had used my own family to target me. My mother and sister weren't just betrayers, they were co-conspirators. Good, I said, adding Ava's documents to my growing pile. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Detective Rivera spread the new evidence across her desk, her expression growing grimmer with each document. This is bigger than we thought. We're looking at organized fraud across multiple states. What do you need from me? I asked. We need someone on the inside. She leaned forward. Your sister's hosting a business meeting tomorrow night. Apparently, she's already looking for new investors. My jaw dropped. She's trying to do it again? With your mother's help. The detective slid a small device across the desk. This is a recording pen, completely legal in this state. We need you to attend that meeting. They'll never let me in. They know I'm investigating them. Actually, she handed me a printed email. Your mother specifically requested your presence, says she wants to make amends. I read the email, my heart pounding. The meeting was at an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind of place Brinley always chose to impress potential marks. Won't they suspect something? They're expecting you to come angry, demanding answers. Give them what they expect. Detective Rivera's eyes met mine. Just keep the pen in your jacket pocket. Let them talk. That evening, I met Ava at her apartment to prepare. She helped me choose an outfit that would conceal the recording pen while still looking business appropriate. Remember, she said, adjusting my blazer, they'll try to provoke you. Stay calm. Let them incriminate themselves. What if they search me? They won't. She squeezed my shoulders. They're too arrogant. They think they can talk you down, maybe even rope you into their next scheme. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Please come tonight, honey. We can fix this as a family. Ava read it over my shoulder. They're still playing the family card. It won't work this time. I checked the recording pen one last time. I'm done protecting people who never protected me. The restaurant was packed when I arrived. Through the window, I could see Brinley holding court at a large table, gesturing animatedly to a group of well-dressed strangers. Mom sat beside her, nodding and smiling at all the right moments. Paige! Brinley's voice was too bright when I approached. Everyone, this is my sister I was telling you about. The potential investors smiled politely. There were 5 of them, all looking eager and unsuspecting, just like Dean and I had been. Sorry I'm late, I said, taking the empty seat next to Mom. Traffic was terrible. We were just discussing the exciting opportunities in sustainable fashion, Brinley continued smoothly. learning from past ventures to create something truly revolutionary. Past ventures? I couldn't help myself. You mean past failures? Mom's hand gripped my arm under the table. Paige, please. We're here to move forward. One of the investors, a woman in her 40s, leaned forward. I'd love to hear your perspective, Paige. Your sister mentioned you have financial experience? I do. I felt the recording pen press against my chest. In fact, I have quite a bit of experience with my sister's business practices. Brinley's smile tightened. Perhaps we should discuss the new proposal first. No, let's discuss experience. I pulled out my phone, pulling up the banking app showing our empty account. Let me show you exactly what investing with my sister looks like. This isn't the time, Mom hissed. When is the time? I turned to the investors. Before or after she transfers your money to Stellar Ventures? The room went silent. Mom's face went white. What's Stellar Ventures? One of the investors asked. Why don't you ask my mother? I suggested. It's registered to her address after all. Brinley stood up abruptly. I think we need a family moment. If you'll excuse us. Sit down, I said quietly. Unless you want me to start showing everyone the proof of your forged documents. The investors were looking increasingly uncomfortable. The woman who had asked about my experience was already gathering her things. Perhaps we should reschedule, she said. No, wait! Brinley's composure cracked. This is just a family disagreement. My sister is bitter about some past investments that didn't pan out. Didn't pan out? I laughed. Is that what we're calling fraud now? Mom grabbed my arm again, harder this time. Stop this right now. I stood up, shaking her off. No, Mom, you stop. Stop lying to these people. Stop helping her steal their money. Just stop. The investors were all standing now, muttering excuses as they backed away from the table. Brinley watched them go, her face twisted with rage. You've ruined everything, she snarled. I touched the recording pen in my pocket, feeling stronger by the second. No, you did that all on your own. I'm just making sure you can't do it to anyone else. As I walked out of the restaurant, I heard Mom calling after me, but her voice was drowned out by the sound of my own heart beating steady and sure, knowing that tomorrow, Detective Rivera would have everything she needed to bring them all down. The recording from the restaurant played through Detective Rivera's office speakers, every damning word crystal clear. Mom's voice crackled through the device. The investment is completely secure. I personally guarantee it. That's explicit fraud, Rivera said, stopping the playback. Combined with the paper trail, we have enough for arrests. When? I asked. Today. We're moving now, before they can destroy more evidence. She stood up. Want to watch? I met Ava outside Mom's house an hour later. Police cars lined the street, lights flashing. Neighbors peered from behind curtains as officers led my mother out in handcuffs. I did this for you, Mom shouted when she saw me. Everything was for this family. Taking our life savings was for family? I called back. Stealing from innocent people was for family? Brinley emerged next, mascara streaking her face. Paige, please, tell them this is a mistake. The only mistake was trusting you. Officers were carrying out boxes of documents, computers, and hard drives. Detective Rivera approached us, holding up a familiar-looking laptop. Found this hidden in the crawl space, she said, along with about $50,000 in cash. Ava squeezed my arm. That's more than enough for criminal charges. A black SUV pulled up, and a man in an expensive suit jumped out, running toward the house. I recognized him from Ava's files, Robert Walsh, the name behind Stellar Ventures. Nobody say anything, he shouted. I'm their lawyer. Little late for that, Detective Rivera said, holding up my recording pen. We've got everything we need right here. Walsh's face darkened as he spotted me. You're the sister. He stepped closer, voice dropping. You have no idea what you've done. Step back, sir, an officer warned, moving between us. Inside the house, more evidence emerged. Officers found a hidden safe containing forged documents, fake IDs, and records of previous scams. Mom and Brinley had been running variations of this scheme for years, targeting family members of their marks to add pressure and legitimacy. "I can't believe how deep this goes," Ava muttered, watching another box of evidence being carried out. My phone rang. Dean. "Are you watching the news?" he asked when I answered. "I'm watching it live," I replied. "They just arrested them." A pause. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know yet." I watched as Mom and Brinley were placed in separate police cars. "But I know I did the right thing." "Mrs. Gray!" A reporter had broken through the police line, microphone extended. "How does it feel to expose your own family's criminal enterprise?" Before I could respond, Ulysses's car screeched to a halt at the curb. He jumped out, waving a USB drive. "Detective!" he called out. "I found more. Email servers, offshore accounts, everything." Walsh spun toward him. "You little rat." "Sir, step back or you're next," Rivera warned, taking the drive from Ulysses. Brinley pressed her face against the police car window. "Ulysses, you promised! We had a deal!" "The deal's off," he shot back. "I'm not going down for this." More reporters arrived, cameras flashing. Mom stared straight ahead, her perfect makeup now streaked with tears. Brinley alternated between sobbing and shouting threats at anyone who would listen. Detective Rivera turned to me. "We'll need you to come down to the station, make a formal statement." "I'll come with you," Ava offered. "Actually," Rivera said, "we need to talk to you too. Your law firm's records show some interesting connections to Stellar Ventures." Ava smiled grimly. "I was hoping you'd find those. I've got a whole file ready for you." As the police cars pulled away, Walsh stormed up to me one last time. "You think this is over? This goes higher than you know. People will come after you for this." "Let them come," I replied, loud enough for nearby reporters to hear. "I've got nothing left to lose, remember? Your clients made sure of that." He paled as cameras swung in his direction. "Sir?" a reporter approached. "Can you comment on your connection to Stellar Ventures?" Walsh fled to his SUV, leaving me standing in front of my childhood home, watching years of lies and manipulation crumble in the harsh light of truth. Dean arrived just as the last police car pulled away. He wrapped his arms around me as reporters shouted questions in the background. "What now?" he asked softly. I watched Walsh's SUV speed away, thinking of all the evidence still being uncovered, all the people who had been hurt by their schemes. Now? I turned to face the cameras, ready to tell the whole story. Now we make sure everyone knows exactly what happened here. No more secrets, no more lies, and no more family loyalty? Dean asked. "Family loyalty has to be earned," I replied. "They lost that right long ago." The courthouse buzzed with tension as I took the witness stand. 3 months had passed since the arrests, and now I faced my family across the courtroom. Mom sat rigid in her designer suit, while Brinley dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, always the performer. "Please state your relationship to the defendants," the prosecutor said. "Daria Welch is my mother. Brinley Welch is my sister. And could you describe how they defrauded you and your husband?" I walked through everything, the pressure, the manipulation, the lies. With each detail, I watched Mom's facade crack further. Brinley had abandoned her tears, glaring at me with naked hatred. "You testified that your mother knew about the fraudulent nature of these investments from the beginning," the prosecutor continued. "How can you be certain?" "Because she told me herself." I pulled out my phone, playing the recording from that final confrontation at the restaurant. Mom's voice filled the courtroom. "The money's gone, Paige. It was gone before you invested. That's how these things work." Their lawyer jumped up. "Objection. This recording was obtained legally," the judge interrupted. "Overruled." During the cross-examination, their lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive daughter, jealous of my sister's success. "Isn't it true that you always resented Brinley's entrepreneurial spirit?" I resented being stolen from, I replied. There's a difference between entrepreneurship and fraud. And you never considered that this might destroy your family? They destroyed our family when they stole our life savings. I looked directly at Mom. When they chose money over their own daughter, the evidence mounted throughout the day. Ulysses testified about the shell companies. Ava presented documentation showing the broader conspiracy. Other victims came forward, families torn apart by similar schemes. During a break, Dean found me in the hallway. "You're doing great," he said, pulling me close. "I feel sick," I admitted. "I keep seeing Mom's face when they played that recording. Remember what she did to us." He pulled back, meeting my eyes. "Remember eating ramen for months while she helped Brinley plan their next scam." Back in the courtroom, Robert Walsh took the stand. He'd cut a deal, agreeing to testify against my family in exchange for a lighter sentence. "Ms. Welch and her daughter were instrumental in our operation," he explained. "They had a particular talent for manipulating family connections." "How so?" the prosecutor asked. "Family members trust each other. When someone's mother vouches for an investment, they're more likely to ignore red flags." He gestured toward Mom. "Daria was especially effective. She could convince anyone that these schemes were legitimate family businesses." Mom finally cracked. "You promised we'd be protected," she shouted at Walsh. "You said they'd never trace it back to us." The judge banged his gavel as the courtroom erupted. During closing arguments, the prosecutor displayed our empty bank statements alongside photos of Brinley's luxury purchases, designer bags, expensive cars, vacation homes. "This wasn't just fraud," she concluded. "This was a systematic betrayal of trust, perpetrated by people who were supposed to protect their loved ones." The jury took less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. "On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the charge of money laundering?" "Guilty." The charges continued. "Guilty, guilty, guilty." Mom slumped in her chair. Brinley began to sob, real tears this time. When the judge asked if they had anything to say before sentencing, Mom stood up. "Everything I did was for my daughters," she began. "I only wanted—" "No." I stood up in the gallery. "Don't you dare make this about us. This was about greed. Your greed. Brinley's greed." "Order!" the judge commanded. The sentences came down hard. 8 years for Mom, 12 for Brinley. Massive fines, asset forfeiture. As they were led away, Brinley turned to me one last time. "I hope you're happy now. You've ruined everything." "You ruined it," I called back. "I just exposed the truth." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. "How does it feel to send your family to prison?" I faced the cameras, holding Dean's hand. "They stopped being family the moment they decided to steal from us. Real family protects each other. Real family doesn't destroy lives for profit." Later that night, alone in our apartment, Dean found me staring at an old family photo. "Having regrets?" he asked softly. "No." I turned the frame face down. "Just mourning the family I thought I had." "We'll build a better one," he promised. "One based on trust and honesty." I nodded, thinking of all the other families out there, potentially targeted by similar schemes. "The detective called," I said. "They want me to help with other cases like this, share our story, help other victims come forward." Dean smiled. "From victim to advocate?" "Something like that." I squared my shoulders. They thought I was weak. Now they know better. The conference room fell silent as I finished speaking. Hundreds of faces looked back at me, many streaked with tears, others nodding in recognition of their own stories and mine. "Thank you, Paige," the moderator said, stepping up to the podium. "Does anyone have questions for our keynote speaker?" Dozens of hands shot up. A woman in the front row stood, her voice shaking. "How did you find the strength to turn them in?" "I suspect my brother is doing something similar, but I can't." "The strength comes from realizing that protecting them means enabling them," I replied. Every person who stays silent becomes part of the fraud. After the conference, Ava met me in the lobby. That was powerful. How many victims have come forward since you started speaking? 43 families so far. I checked my phone. A text from Dean. Great news. Call me. Excuse me? A man approached, extending his hand. I'm Marcus from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. We've been following your advocacy work. Oh? I shook his hand, noting his serious expression. Your case helped us crack open a nationwide network of family-based investment fraud. We'd like to offer you a position as a civilian consultant. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. Hello? Paige? The voice was familiar yet different, smaller. It's Mom. My hand tightened on the phone. What do you want? I've been doing a lot of thinking in here. She paused. You were right about everything. Is this another manipulation? No, she sighed. I'm in therapy now, real therapy. I see what we did to you, to everyone. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Good, I cut in, because you're not getting it. I know, Another pause. I wanted you to know you were right to stop us. We deserved this. I ended the call, turning back to Marcus. About that consultant position, what exactly would it involve? Working with victims, helping us identify patterns, testifying in cases? He smiled. You've become quite the expert in family fraud dynamics. She has, Ava agreed. You should see her support group. Hundreds of members now. My phone buzzed one more time. Dean again. I excused myself to call him back. Remember that house we wanted, Shat? He said without preamble. The one we lost our savings over? Dean, it's back on the market. And guess what? The asset forfeiture from your mom and sister's case? Our restitution just came through. I sat down hard in a nearby chair. How much? Enough for a down payment, plus some left over to really make it ours. Tears pricked my eyes. The house we thought we lost forever. Poetic justice, Cholmo, he said. Want to go see it? Yes, but... I looked at Marcus, still waiting patiently. I need to finish something here first. I walked back to them, head high. I'll take the position on one condition. I want to expand the victim support program. People need to know they're not alone in this. Marcus nodded. Already in the budget. When can you start? Right now. I turned to Ava. Want to help me draft a new presentation? Something about turning victims into advocates? Always, she grinned. But first, don't you have a house to go look at? An hour later, I stood in front of the colonial-style home we'd dreamed of, holding Dean's hand. The realtor unlocked the door, revealing hardwood floors and sun-filled rooms. It's perfect, Dean whispered. It's more than perfect. I squeezed his hand. It's justice. My phone chimed. An email from the support group moderator. 10 new members today. Your speech inspired them to come forward. You know what the best revenge is? I asked Dean as we walked through our future home. What's that? Building something good from something bad, taking their destruction and turning it into construction. He pulled me close. Speaking of construction, that spare room would make a great office for your consulting work. Or a nursery, I said quietly. He pulled back, eyes wide. Are you... Not yet, I smiled. But maybe it's time to start our own family. Show them how it's really done. The realtor appeared with papers. Ready to make an offer? I looked around the room. That would be ours, bought with the money recovered from those who tried to destroy us. Through the window I could see a garden, empty now, but full of potential. Yes, I said firmly, we're ready. Dean signed first, then handed me the pen. As I wrote my name, I thought about family, not the one that betrayed me, but the one I would build, one founded on truth, trust, and justice. The realtor beamed. Congratulations, welcome home. Home, not just a house, but a symbol of everything we'd fought for, everything we'd won back. I took Dean's hand, stepping into our future. Let's get started.